I'm Sydney. And I'm Talia. Pull up a chair. You're listening to The Desk.
Hi guys, welcome back to the desk. I'm Sydney,
I'm Talia.
and today we're talking to a very well-read man, someone who is just a jack of all trades, knows a little bit about everything, but his specialty is economics. So please welcome and pull up a chair for Arjonie Taylor.
Guys, he's my big brother. So happy to have you here.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming.
So happy to have you here, Arjonie. And we're just gonna, dive into that.
Yeah, sure.
How did you get into economics?
That's a really good question, right? But I think the main question is why not economics? Why
Okay.
not economics, right? Because, oftentimes when people think about economics, they think about money. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? But at the heart of economics, it's really about everyday life, right? It's about how people make choices when they have time, money, resources are somewhat limited. And economics
Right.
helps us to think about that, right? So every time you decide whether or not you want to save or you want to spend or whether or not you want to take this job over a next job, how you go about your daily life, making decision, these trade-offs, economics is at the center of that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to show is that everything that we do at its core is economics, right? And that is something that somewhat influenced the decision for me. Originally, when I started, I was doing computer science, but then I realized that just going through school and going through life, I'm applying these basic concepts and principles that I was exposed to in economics earlier on in life. And it kind of pulled me closer and closer towards the discipline. When you even think about what's going on in the world right now, right? We think about the conflict between US and Iran, the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, for example, and seeing gasoline prices going up. It's economists that really think about those different situations and how that translates into, different countries, etc. So yeah, just that fascination pulled me towards it in the past, and I'm here now.
That makes a lot of sense, and thank you for saying it in probably the simplest terms you could have.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually when you talk economics, or at least the way we've grown up being taught it, it's just like money, and
yeah. It's
that's
just
just that. Not like money because you buy gas, money because the president spends your money, not money because we travel, all those different things. So I guess that would lead me to ask you: do you think the way that economics is taught allows for people to actually understand it, or is there opportunity for that to grow and change so that people
mm.
are invested into it?
I mean, I think it depends on the person because
Mhm.
I deliver economics. I try to relate with the person that I'm communicating with. I'm trying to relate with the students. So I'm trying to pull in practical examples or current trending topics so that people can relate, right? I've been in situation before where persons were talking about economics on previous teachers and lecturers and professors, etc. And it was this high. I mean, how it was pitched, how it was delivered, it's this
Right.
high. And whenever I'm in those situations or contexts, I don't think I learned that much. So
Mm-hmm.
I made it my primary duty to, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it as simple as possible so that anyone, even if you haven't heard the term or word economics before, you're able
Mhm.
to understand. So I think with some persons, there is scope for improvement to simplify it some bit because it can get complicated. It can get too big.
Yeah. Do you think that people, specifically around our age, who don't attend economics courses or your class, your lectures, because we know that you've got it on lock, but do you think people our age who don't study economics like you do truly understand how the economy works?
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Do you think people our age
Mm-hmm.
understand how the
Wow.
economy works?
Right. You know what? I think a lot of what we do
Mm-hmm.
is economics. Um, a lot of what you do or individuals your age do is economics, but you guys just probably don't realize that it's economics. And if I can give you a practical example right now, right? We're here having this discussion, right? Within this particular hour. However,
Mm-hmm.
within the same hour, we could be doing something else, right? You could be studying, you possibly could be talking to your friend, etc. What you have done is you made a trade-off. You made a
Mm-hmm.
trade-off to be here in this hour relative to doing something else. That is economics.
Mm-hmm.
So on a daily basis, you guys are making these decisions that is purely economics, but you probably won't realize. Now, in terms of fully understanding it, um, you guys will see prices going up all the time. I mean, you get a set amount of money to take you through, probably allowance to take you through, etc., etc., etc. You know, and based on that money that you get, you decide what you're going to purchase and what you're not going to purchase, etc., etc. That is economics in general. So you are thinking as an economist, but you probably don't recognize it, or individuals your age are thinking like economists, but probably don't even realize. Yeah.
Right. So then, if that is how we are thinking, and I guess again, maybe this goes back to how we're taught it as like this big, huge concept rather than small, itty bitty
Yeah.
choices. What would you say that our current society is telling about our economics, or how is our economics mirroring our current society? Maybe that's a better way to put it.
That's a good question. Um, that's a good question. How do I think say it again? Say it again. How do I think society
How do
is?
you think economics is mirroring society and maybe vice versa? So, for example, you talked about prices getting higher. So now, I don't know, maybe people are now swapping to electric cars.
Yeah.
That's maybe one very specific trade-off. But in those like more smaller instances, for maybe people our age who are probably going to listen to this, how does that now play into our life? And then how does our economy now kind of look back at us?
Right. And I think that's what I tried to convey, like with the previous example where I'm saying that you have X amount of money that you get, prices are going up, you know, and you're trying to decide what you can purchase with it. I mean, you made the point about, for example, electric vehicles. And one of the main reason why electric vehicles came about, for example, was because there was significant increases in gas oil prices in the past, and consumers wanted a way to to drive but still not face those high prices that they're seeing or experiencing, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
advocated for these type of technologies, and firm respond, right? There are many different examples. If you think about interest rates, right, probably you guys won't borrow as much. I don't know. Or if we think about you guys being in university, and if
Yeah.
you think about student loans, for example, I mean, if the borrowing rate goes up, interest rate goes up, then it limits the amount of person who will make the decision to go to university, because no, it's a bit more costly, right? So in many different
Mm-hmm.
practical examples, you'll see economics and you'll see these trade-offs happening on a daily basis for older individuals and for younger individuals as well.
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does.
Um, in terms of like economics news and then like how that impacts working and I guess even just like the job economy, how do you think our current economy has played into the job market? How do you think it's played into what work means now? Um, how do you think AI is impacting it? I know
Mm.
that's like four questions in one, but I guess feel free to yap.
So yeah, the economy goes in what we call highs and lows, booms and
Mm-hmm.
troughs, right? And typically, whenever there's a boom, right? Whenever there's a significant uptick in economic activities, I mean, we typically have more jobs, more individuals being employed, more individuals earning, etc.
Right.
And then there are times when the economy goes down in these recessionary, really depressionary periods in which there's not much job available for individuals. So with the economy, there's a cycle, there are ups and there are downs, and with that come more job opportunities and less job opportunities. Now, when it comes on to AI, I have uh split feelings and split opinion on it. But when I think about AI, it can be used in two ways, right?
Mhm.
It can support what we do as workers. And as such, if we think about the time that it takes to carry out a particular activity or task, AI can reduce that time considerably. And as such,
Right.
within an hour, right? Within an hour,
Mm.
instead of you spending 1 hour to do a particular task, you can now complete it within 15 minutes, let's say,
Right.
right? So it improves our productivity, quote unquote. But then there are other tasks or repetitive tasks that you may no longer need an individual or a worker to carry out, because
Mhm.
these tasks can be programmed or coded and can be carried out by an automated system, right? So it has two effects, I believe, on labor and on the labor force.
Mm.
It can improve it, but then certain repetitive tasks can actually become obsolete for us as workers.
One question.
Yep.
Now, I know that we said it before, we said it and said it again, but you actually study trends within the economy, right?
Right.
Okay. So with that question, how do you think the idea of work has changed for generations, over the generations?
Yeah. Over the generation, I believe work has become more automated. Um,
Hmm.
there are a lot more jobs that are what we call more capital intensive in economics. What that means is that they're using less labor, less workers, and they're using more equipment and robots and different type of machines to carry out certain tasks, right? So there was one time when labor was at the forefront, but now we're moving in this stage or in this era where labor, which is us the workers, somewhat being augmented by machines or technologies, right?
Hmm.
And that seemed to be a trend in more and more and more countries as time progressed. Now, what we need to do as young individuals who typically, I think the main aim of going to university is to go out and get a job, a good paying job at the end of the day, etc. You want to learn. You want to learn too, right? So you
Mhm.
want to ensure that you invest your time and your skills into things that we're not easily replaced by a machine or some form of technology.
If our idea of work has changed, does that mean the economy needs to change as well? So if it's been running a certain way, should we now be implementing certain changes, whether that's personnel
Hmm.
or whatever?
Yeah. So the economy been changing over time, right? It's very dynamic, so it
Right.
changes. Um, And that's what we call, and I'm going to quote it, structural changes, meaning there's a
Okay.
shift in, the type of persons that are working and the necessary skill sets that's
Mm-hmm.
required. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I give you an example. If we think about computer science in the past and how computer science would have evolved and how the job software engineers would have evolved, I mean, the type
Right.
of programming language that they were using back then were relatively limited, right? And what it could do
Yeah.
is relatively limited, right? But no, because things are getting so advanced, there are new
Hmm.
languages that allows you to do way more than before. The skill
Yeah.
set that's required by computer scientists has changed completely, right? And with that change comes software engineers being more productive, and as such, the economy in general is more productive. So whenever there's a shift in us,
Mm,
human beings, labor, workers, it typically
mm,
translates to a shift in the economy as well. Also, when we think about what currently exists, there's this feedback, there's this feedback feed through in terms of what's currently going on in the economy and what's required by us workers,
mm.
right? And whenever there's a change or an improvement on this side, it automatically or should feed over to the workers side. So we
Right.
somewhat try to upgrade our skills to match what's going on up there. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you think that today's workers are feeling or probably less secure and working harder trying to stay, I guess, relevant for
Right.
their boss before, so they don't get laid off? And there's less security in job positions?
That's a very good question. And I would say certain positions,
Mm,
right? Because we have different types of jobs. We have jobs that only us workers can mainly do, job that requires our mind, our brains to think and figure out and be creative with. But then there are jobs that are extremely repetitive. For example, if I want to make this glass right here, right?
mhm,
I know how, if I want to make this cup, I know how much glass we need. I know the design that we need. I know the exact measurement that can be programmed, right?
mm,
So once upon a time, workers were the one that was making this glass, but now we
Mm,
don't need workers to make it anymore because everything about this glass can be programmed. It's a repetitive task, right?
mm,
So workers in certain area, those are workers that are working in areas that are extremely repetitive, may be a bit more insecure about job security and stability over the long run, because as technology improve, those areas may be more dominated by machines than human. And then you have other areas that it requires here for us, our creative skills and minds, etc. So those have a bit more security. I can say this too. There's a prominent bank in Jamaica, and um there were individuals working at the front desk, etc. Right, and they were the one that greet customers, that assign, let's say, ticket to customers and just solve basic requirements or needs, right? And I
mm,
can say that
mm.
bank has reduced that section of their labor significantly in recent years because of them being able to automate that section.
no.
Yeah.
But then that takes away, what's the word? Compatibility and, customer to
Yep.
service worker, and the face-to-face value of communication and partnership that we all feel when we're talking to other people. It feels a little bit more cold, no?
Right. It does. It does. In fact, even here, even here, whenever I take my phone up to call my bank to actually
Mhm.
speak to someone, it's annoying somewhat to each time being talking to this automated system, right? And whenever I
Oh,
say something that is not programmed, it can't
Uh-huh.
it can't somewhat decipher or understand what I'm saying, which makes the process, not fulfilling for me as a customer. And I believe when it comes down to these businesses, the number one thing is customer satisfaction, right?
Mm,
And oftentimes these automated systems fail to meet that. But their argument is going to be that as time progresses, then these automated systems will get better and better and better and better and better. So it's gonna come a
right.
time when you're able to communicate with it as though we are communicating here right now. So
yeah.
mm.
Fair enough.
Mm.
But if the governments are pouring so much money into this, I mean, like in America, obviously Donald Trump has almost co-signed ChatGPT, for lack of a better word. Um, Do you feel like the government focuses too much on the technology and the system rather than the people that it's serving?
Right. Um, yeah, and that's a good one. What I think is that even independent of the government, before I even
Mm-hmm.
say that, I must add this, that as human beings, for us to evolve, we have to accept change,
Mm-hmm.
right? In order for us to improve, there must be some advancement or change in the way we go about doing things or technology, etc. That's the only way we're going to propel forward. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes on to these automated system or AI, or you made reference of ChatGPT, which is, I believe, is is good. Like chat, I'm not against chat. I'm for chat.
Like
Right?
none are
I'm
like
not against
sister.
chat. I'm for chat. Right?
I'm for it.
Right.
Dang,
But
me.
but
It's not a
but
big too.
but but for me, chat is like alcohol. You do it, but you do it responsibly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And don't get addicted, because there is here that we're trying to build. That's why
Yeah.
everything we do each day, we try to learn. I mean, that's why we go to school. We try to learn. Right. And you don't want anything that pulls you away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty about these types of technology is that they pull you away from it if you want it to pull you away from learning, right? It can aid the learning process. So you should
Right.
use it that way, to aid the learning process and not pull away from the learning process. But to go back to the question, um, apart from the government, like many different firms, many different business they are investing in these types of technologies, right?
Yeah.
Um, they are investing in more research to advance these types of technology that will help them to progress even more. Because if I give you guys some basic economics again, firms
Mm-hmm.
are a profit a firm that want to make a profit is primarily about maximizing that profit, right? They want to make as much profit as possible. Difference between how much they earn in revenues and their cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that if you can automate certain activity or activities, and if you can use these types of technology like ChatGPT or others that will make the worker, let's say, more productive, then they're going to invest in that, right? They're going to push that type of technology forward. I mean, I know a lot of firms per se don't really like to use ChatGPT per se, but they have their own form of AI assistant or tool that they're using in
Right.
their process, right? So yeah.
Do you think that right now, with everything that's happening, would you say like point blank, um, the world is struggling
The world
in a
is.
sense? Yeah. Can an economy grow while people are still struggling?
Can the economy grow while people are still recovering?
Struggling,
Oh,
struggling.
struggling. Ah, okay. Um, and this, there's a lot of debate around this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, there's a definition for economic growth, right? What economic growth is, it's the expansion of productive capacity in a country over time. What does that mean? It means a country or economy, they're producing more goods and services over time, from one year to the next, or from one quarter to the next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is possible for an economy to grow, but we don't have more people being employed, or
Mm.
we don't have standard of living going up, right?
Right.
And as such, some persons may be struggling in that settings or context, because the economy is growing, but individuals' wages isn't really going up in such a way that is truly reflective of how the economy is growing. So I do believe that the economy can grow, and people may be struggling, but am I for it? No. What am I for? I'm for a growth where, individuals overall, or the individuals at a higher end of the income distribution, those that are earning a lot, or those that are at the lower end, those that are struggling and not earning much, and for a growth where everyone somewhat benefit and the gap between the high earners and the low earners somewhat close. So we have less people struggling. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I'm like genuinely learning as you're talking, so I'm like noting things down.
Uh,
Reading.
so
I'm rushing to my head, like,
yeah, like it is possible for there to be growth and people still struggle. And that's one of the things that we as economists um we're working on, and we're trying to figure out how to close that gap as the economy gets better. So yeah.
and what would you say the biggest gaps in the economy are right now?
I think it depends. Of course, it depends on the economy that we're looking at. It depends on the country, of course, that we're looking at. If you look at developing countries, per se, so if we exclude the high income countries like the US, etc., and focus on others, we need more inclusion, right? We need more inclusion. We need improvements in the banking. We need more improvement in the banking system. You see a lot across developing countries that, I can go into so much. Like, all right, so the bank is like a middleman, right?
Yeah.
Imagine me as a bank, and you have the two of you. One of you is a saver, one of you we consider an investor, right? And for me, you put your money in the bank, and I'm the bank that connect, or the ink that middleman that connect the saver to the person who is trying to invest, right? And I think a lot in developing countries, the banking system isn't as smooth. You have a lot more persons who quote unquote want to invest, but the whole situation or the setup doesn't allow for the development of that, small business or that small sector. So I think developing countries can do a lot in improving what's going on in their banking system to somewhat further growth. I think when it comes on to workers as well, there's still a big gap. I think I mentioned this before. There's still a big gap in terms of could be different marginalized group, right? It could be disability workers versus non disabilities. It could be men versus women. It could be young workers versus old workers. There's still a gap in terms of, let's say all of us, we're carrying out the same task, right? You and I are employed carrying out the same task, but for some reason I'm earning more than you are earning more than me. We tend to see that a lot in these countries, and you need to close that gap somewhat. Better policies that support growth, better policies that support investment in research. Research is very, very important. And that's what PhD is about, doing research, right? Investment in research, God, that's how you innovate, and that's how you grow, through innovation, through creating new technologies, through creating new tools, creating new skill sets. That's the only way an economy can have long-term sustainable growth. Investing in research, investing in human capital, etc. So yeah. Hope I answered the question.
Yeah,
Definitely.
of course. Now, if I were, so we're looking at the economy, but the goal that we're looking at in full is decent work and economy. If I
Okay.
throw out the phrase to you, decent work, what does that look like for you from an economic standpoint?
Decent
You
work.
decent work.
Yeah. I think decent work kind of aligns back to my discussion that it's about fairness. It's about inclusion. And when I say fairness, I mean all of us having equal opportunity, right? It's about we closing that wage gap, that if we're doing the same type of job, we are earning roughly the same amount of money, right? It's about working in a safe environment, an environment that you feel comfortable. You wake up every morning wanting to go to work, and if anything, God forbid, should happen, there are necessary things in place to somewhat support you through that journey. So when it comes down to decent work, like that's what comes to my mind.
I love it. You're so smart. You're so intelligent.
And what do you think decent work looks like in actuality? So you've talked about closing the wage gap and being more diverse in terms of, or being more inclusive, including
Mhm.
diversity in different economies, different countries. But what are like the tangible steps we can take towards actually achieving those goals?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the government of these respective countries, of each respective country, each economy again, and implementing different rules and regulations that supports that. I mean, the main aim is is to promote that in the workplace, and the main body that should be responsible for that is the government. Of course, the workplace themselves, the firms, the businesses does play a part. But if these institutions or these rules and regulations aren't set up to govern that, then these business will do whatever they want to do. So I think the natural step is for the government to definitely play a strong part in labor laws and ensuring that these goals and milestones and steps are naturally met.
Wow. Like she said earlier, we're learning so much, and I was so happy that you came because I was like, wait, I know someone who sleeps, breathes economics and someone who
Mm,
wants to better the world.
right.
And I wanted to ask, yeah, this one's going to require a little bit more imagination. But
Okay.
if you were the head economic person for the world, the head economist, and
Okay.
you had all the power to change this, change that, implement this, implement that, what would you do? What would be Arjonie Taylor's bulletproof plan to get the world back like a year?
uh in terms of decent work, or in terms of in general?
In
In general.
general, because I want it to be your what you
Okay.
you go on.
Okay.
Not I don't want to
Good.
close you in.
Great. Okay. All right, that's a good one. So for me, I mean, economics is wide, right?
Hmm.
And I'm tackling this from an economist side or point of view. And I'm going to tackle it from my area as well, because as I said, econ is wide. I specialize in energy and environmental economics, right? So one
Hmm.
of the first things that I think about when we think about growing as
Hmm.
as a country, or if we're talking about the world economy in general, as I said before, the definition for economic growth, it's the expansion or increasing productive capacity. So the economy is producing more, right? But if
Hmm.
it's producing more, and we're thinking about the manufacturing sector, and we're thinking about that's even more basic than that. When it goes on to the production of most goods and services, what do you think is used? Electricity, right?
Yeah.
And the whole electricity generation process can be very, very, I don't want to say that word. It can be very, the emission that comes from that is a lot, right? The environmental consequence that comes from that is a lot,
Hmm.
right? So when it comes down to growing and think about policies surrounding growing, we need to grow in a sustainable way. Very important. We need to grow in a way that we're here now. When our kids comes, when our grandkid comes, there is some resource left in the earth for them to tap. All right. So we're
Right.
talking about crude oil, we're talking about all these different core minerals, essential minerals, etc. So it must be done in a sustainable way that it doesn't affect future generations. So one policy that we can think about implementing again is around the extraction of resources, such that it is
Hmm.
done in such a way that our generation isn't the only generation that benefits, but future generation benefit as well. Now, it doesn't make sense that we have an Earth that that have all these climatic problems, right? We hear about global warming. We believe it or not, some individuals do believe that the Earth there's global warming isn't a thing, but I believe that global warming is a thing, right? And it's a consequence of our activity as human beings. And as we push to grow the economy more, we pollute more, we release more carbon monoxide and all these global and local pollutants into the environment, into the air. We have some companies, releasing their waste in lakes and rivers and seas, etc., which is bad, right? So we want to think about growing too, but also protecting the environment so that we can actually reap the benefit of our labor in the future. Because if you destroy it, then that would be problematic for us and future generation. So that's on the environmental side and the resource side. But on the human side, again, I want to think more about policies that will help to force us to close the gap. In the individuals at the lower end of the income distribution, they must be able to enjoy a life that makes them happy as well, because that's what economics goes back. That's the core of economics, utilizing scarce resources to maximize our wants as human beings, right? So individuals at the lower end that cannot afford the basic necessities of life, we need social welfare, or more social welfare safety net that protect and guard those individuals, and even give them the necessary skill set, train them, for those who need rehabilitation, rehabilitate them, right? For those who need more schooling, give them the training, give them the schooling that will help them to be more productive, such that they can earn more. I tend to find us as well, the younger generation,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're young. You're
to,
hip. You're cool. Yeah.
to to suffer somewhat, because I remember just when I when I finished my bachelor's, I went straight into the master's. But then when you finish the master's, it's very hard to find a job. Everyone wants all these years of experience, right? And how do you really have these experiences if you're just coming out of school, right? For those with a bachelor's degree, you go in the job market, you're without a job for a period of time because you need experience. Okay, how am I going to get this experience if I'm just coming out of school? So again, for me, I want to think of a way that can integrate ourselves, the youngins, smoothly into the workforce, that they can come out and be productive member of society without there being a significant down time. So.
I love that answer. I would vote for you for president. For
so, so,
president,
so I'm
whatever it
gonna
is.
run then. I'm gonna run for president.
Yeah, I would vote for you.
This podcast is brought to you by Kelomolo, where culture and class meet couture.
So, has studying this degree and
Right.
dedicating yourself to teaching others and helping others realize what you've taught us this whole podcast, has it changed how you see everyday life? Being
Yeah.
so intimately. Mhm.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think I live I live economics, right? I mean, as I said, without even knowing, you guys do it on a daily basis. Like, you guys make trade-offs on a daily basis and not thinking that, hey, this is economics, right? But for me, who is aware that it's economics, I do it even more. Right? I'll sit here and I'll be like, okay, I have this and this to do. I need to prioritize the priorities, right? I can only devote myself to one given the time constraints or the money constraint that I have, etc. And I make that decision. I mean, in economics, we learn so much. It involves a lot of math. It involves a lot of programming. It involves so much, because the main aim is you're trying to figure out what's the optimal thing to do. So on a daily basis, like my mind goes through so much different calculations and combinations and perturbations, so many different things to figure out, what's the best thing for me to do in this case and in that case. So doing economics, I don't just learn it, I don't just teach it, I don't just apply it in, my other jobs, but I live it. I live it, live it, live it, live it.
So are you as outraged when the gas prices go up? Because I feel like I'm upset, but I'm just just based on what you said, must be like
Yeah,
really
Together, man.
yeah,
like I feel like you must be invested. Or like when eggs went crazy in the States and like in North America, you must have been like
yeah, because
like what?
I'm for the people, right? I'm for affordability. Listen,
Mhm,
I can say this, which is very, very important, right? That let's say gas price go up by 20%, hypothetically speaking, like just throwing a number
mhm,
out there.
mhm,
I wouldn't have any problem
mhm,
if my income went up by 20%.
Yeah,
And
that
that's the
one.
thing.
mhm.
That's the thing
Right.
that we should recognize, that price becomes a problem when they go up and our wage don't increase, either at that level or more than that. All
Right.
right. So I understand it, especially when it comes down to gas price and energy cost and da 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 da. I
Mhm,
know that once we have conflict in major oil producers, or there's some form of threat to major producers of oil, that
mhm,
prices are going to respond. So
Yeah.
I expected it to move the way how it moves,
mhm.
but when it did happen, I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no, you're right. So luckily for me, I'm I'm in the center of my city, so I can always take the transit for free to go to wherever.
Yeah.
So I don't have to drive the
Cool.
car. I can just leave the car. The car is there parked sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight without driving. All right. But of course, whenever price goes up or my income don't don't go up, then I'm gonna be upset. But I understand why. It's economics.
Makes sense. And as you said, it's changed your view on things. Has it changed your definition of success?
Did say that again? Sorry, I'm not sure what's wrong with my computer. Turned
No,
over.
you're fine. As Talia just asked you if it's changed, like studying economics has changed your view of any economic growth or change. Has it also changed your definition of success?
Ah, have it changed my definition of success? Yes. Yes, but it depends on the context. No.
Okay.
Right. Because I mean, before doing economics, I knew what economics was, right? And I I used to define success as growing, right?
Mm,
Um, and if we're thinking about economic growth again, and the economy or country producing more, growing more, then before I did economics, that would have been success for me in that context.
mm,
But when I doing econ, I realized that success extends beyond just that. Because if the economy is growing, but we the people, we're not
mhm,
growing in accordance with that growth, or wages are really that growing. Um, the if you look at persons at the lower end of the income distribution, etc., their living standard or living condition isn't improving and getting better over time, then that's not a successful economy, right? There's no way you are growing, and that's not being translated into the overall betterment in terms of well-being for our citizens, then that's not success. So in that context, my view would have changed, right? In my personal life, in terms of how I go about doing stuff on a daily basis, of course, our view for success must always be changing for the better, because how I view us is that we're like a blank slate. Have you seen a canvas that these painters draw
Yeah.
on? It's completely empty. And we're painting our life, right? We're painting this beautiful picture. That's what we want it to come out to be. Whether or not we're a good painter depends on our skill set, right?
Right.
And as we become better over time and the skill set gets better, that image of your life changes,
Yeah.
because you can now draw a better picture as you go along. And it's the same with me and my life with learning economics. And the more I learn and the more I understand, is the more my definition change, and the better you get.
I love what you said about the blank canvas and we're painting our life on it.
Yeah.
What does a good life mean beyond income?
Um uh you must be fulfilled. You know, there are a lot of individuals who they are not earning much, and they're so happy because of the community around them, because of the family, the togetherness, like they're individuals that are super rich, and they're not happy. They're not happy. So I try not to associate happiness and well-being with income,
Yeah.
because they are different, right? But for me, it's just to be happy, surrounding myself with persons who they're about happiness. They want to be happy. We can share ideas, like we're here right now sharing ideas, and just having a regular conversation about the the economy and life, and this brings me happiness. This same hour I could use it and, let's say, earn something, trade off economics, right? But this brings me more fulfillment than going out there in the snow to work or do something for whatever, right? So for me, it extends beyond just earnings and income, etc. It's about togetherness. It's about happiness. It's about being comfortable in terms of what's around you, right? And that's it for me. I just want to be happy in life, and yeah.
Well, we wish you all the happiness. Yeah.
Thank you.
And as we get ready to close out, do you have another question for us?
Yeah, I do. So we all know
Yeah.
that you're my big brother,
Right.
and I love you unconditionally. But if you had to be the big brother, the voice of reason for everyone that's listening, what advice would you give people navigating careers right now, navigating their own personal economy? Like how you were talking about how we have our own trade-offs that we're doing little by little during our everyday life. That is our personal economic system.
Right.
What advice would you give others?
Yeah. So in terms of the career, in terms of personal life, in terms of life, for those that are thinking about degrees and thinking about doing stuff, just think about how the landscape is currently changing. Think about what currently exists, and think about ways in which you can navigate around that, right? Or even use that to do what you're doing. You want to think about getting skill sets that can't be easily replaced by some form of automation or machine, right? Think about what makes you happy, which is very important, because satisfaction and joy, I think people oftentimes try to use them interchangeably with money and
Mm.
earnings and wealth, that if you earn more, you're going to be more happier. They're totally different. Can be the happiest person in the world and not be the richest person in the world. They are totally different, right? You need to think about what makes you happy, and you need to go towards what make you happy and be the best thing in, or the best person in, what makes you happy. Never give up. I mean, every day is a new opportunity. Just keep driving, keep driving, keep driving. I look at every disappointment as an appointment. I look at
Mm.
every setback as something to propel you forward. Think about a slingshot. In order for you to go far, far, you have to go back, 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 right? And when you release, that force propel you to the furthest distance. So think about that setback, step back, as something that will push you um to your furthest point. Everything in life is a lesson, and you need to listen and learn from it, and just go forward and be happy. That's the core. Just be happy and just think about what currently exists, and think about ways in which you can be creative and navigate around it, and you'll be fine. That's how I view that.
You must be a very good teacher,
I,
because
I try to motivate. I try to motivate.
you got it down pat. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely simply there. I would sit in your class. I wouldn't be doodling and doing
You guys
nonsense.
should come and visit, and
I will.
sit in and see.
Say less.
We're coming.
Say so much less. I'll be there. Okay, as we wrap up, I thought it'd be kind of fun to come up with all these popular money misconceptions and
Okay.
ask you in a quick fire way your thoughts on it. You don't have to explain, you don't have to reiterate if you don't want to, but if you do, you also can, but you have like 10 seconds to explain your answer.
Oh,
So,
hot
For sure.
seat.
Okay.
give me 1 second. Let me get a couple of them up because I have a few in my mind, but I know you've kind of talked about some of them already.
Well, she's doing that.
So let me get it straight. When you say money myth, I should say myth or not.
Yes, I'm gonna ask you, for example, does money buy happiness?
Okay.
Or
Okay.
can
Gotcha.
money buy happiness?
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. And then you just say myth, not myth, da 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 da.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm. 7 myths about money.
Titi,
So. Mm-hmm.
you were saying you were going to say something, and then I cut you off.
Yeah, I was. What do you think life would be like if we achieved, you know, decent work, a smaller English, it's my first language, but it's not,
You get
I
us
can't
twisted
speak the Queen's
sometimes.
one, you know? But anyways, what does life look like for people if we were able to close? What do you think life would look like for people if we were able to close the wealth gap? If we were able to put into place your master plan
Yeah.
about the economy and everything like that that you were speaking about, and we
Right.
said we were gonna say you were gonna be Arjonie for president.
So remember, it was also along the energy and environmental, the resource side and environmental
Mm-hmm,
side,
mm-hmm.
along with that that income gap or wage gap. But yeah, on the environmental side, of course, we're saving stuff for when our kids come, and when our kids come, which should bring us joy, right? It should bring us
Yeah.
joy, because as parents, you want a life for your kids in which they can succeed and achieve, right? So that's one thing on the environmental side, when you somewhat extract resource in a sustainable way, or you try to reduce the amount of pollution in the environment. And then there's less cleanup costs, so less money being spent in terms of trying to fix all these environmental um problems that are now there, given our emissions or what we have been doing. So that's lower costs for the government, which can then that money can be reallocated to bettering the different citizens or individuals living within a particular country economy. Um, on the closing of that wage gap, income gap, the I mean, citizens in general, especially those at the lower end, should benefit more. And let me say this, you tend to have more individuals at the lower end than at the higher end of the income distribution. So there will be a general increase in the overall well-being of individuals living in a particular country when that happens, which should bring some level of satisfaction and joy as well.
Love it. Ready?
Yeah, I don't think so. I can only think of 5. So
That's it.
I got a 5 for you. First one is super, super easy. Can money buy happiness?
Myth. Wha- myth. To some
Okay.
extent, but money isn't all. It's not for happiness. No, you can, and I
Okay.
can say this: you can be the richest person in the world and not the happiest person in the world.
Right. Right.
There you go.
It's not one for
Second
one.
one is spend now, save later.
Smooth your consumption. There's going to be a rainy day that
Mm-hmm.
you may not know of in the future. Save a bit now, spend some now, such that when that rainy day comes, you can also spend in the future.
Okay. There you go. Third one, saving does all the work, no need to invest.
You need to invest. That's what I think. You need
Say
to
louder
invest.
for the people.
You need to invest. Savings attract lower rates of interest if
Mm-hmm.
you are lower returns. But if you can invest that in whatever form of investment, although it's a bit more risky, depending on the type of investment, you can grow your money quicker, faster.
Hmm.
Just come with some risk.
Okay. Fourth one, money always comes back.
Mm, I'm gonna say myth. It depends on where it goes in the first place. I'm gonna say myth. Well, that's just my opinion. I don't believe it always comes back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Last one, a budget isn't necessary.
it is super necessary, not a myth.
Okay, guys, please. I feel like we need to stop here. Okay, listen.
It is necessary, but it's okay if you go above budget. But as with everything in life, you need to have a plan.
Yeah,
When it comes down to spending, a plan comes with a budget. There may be unforeseen circumstance that takes you above that budget. So you need a contingency plan that
there
may
you go.
take you above. But if you
Mm-hmm.
can be at that budget or below,
Perfect.
I love that.
Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and all of the encouragement and
Mhm.
just honestly probably the kick in the butt that we all needed.
Yeah, we need to.
thank you for having me. This was fun. This was
Now,
fun.
if people wanted to follow you, follow your path, follow what you do, learn from you personally, what could they follow? Where could they search for you?
Hmm. That's yeah. So I recently started a page called Just an Economist. I mean, yeah, it's relatively new. So I'm currently
Mm-hmm.
working on contents and adding stuff to that page, which I'll start back next week going forward. Right? So it's relatively new. That's a new project, but going forward, I think that would be the ideal place. What I try to do there is to somewhat
Mm-hmm.
break economics or break certain situation into very simple terms or ways so that the general public can somewhat understand what's going on, right? So just an economist would be the best place. Relatively new page, something that I'm working on, but it's something that I will giving a lot of attention and energy going forward to. dissect these situations. Yeah.
Oh, this is some great stuff that I'm seeing. I just looked you up, you know. This is some really great. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Mind you, I
But
was already following you because he's so smart. Oh.
Well, thank you again, Arjonie. We really appreciate it.
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me again. Thank you, Leticia. Thank you, Sydney.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of The Desk. I've been Sydney,
I've been Talia.
and we'll see you next time. Bye.